Phil Schneider died in 1996, and many of you, like myself, may not know who he was. I, of course, did the research to present you this video, which is very hard to find, and it's Phil discussing alien technology, similar to the RTK GPS lawnmower you see behind me. Phil was adamant about having the government release all of the evidence that they've acquired on alien technology. And Phil himself had some incredible stories. Many of you may have heard of the Dulce battle in Dulce, New Mexico, that took place underground with aliens, killing 60 Secret Service agents and wounding him. And he was the only one who he claimed survived. Phil lost fingers on his hand, as well as, I quote, his chest being opened up like a fish from an alien weapon. This is truly one of the most amazing videos in that Phil claims for himself and everyone watching that he also has a piece of the Roswell craft from 1947.
Thank you for I'm Phil Schneider. I'm an ex-government worker who worked 17 years in the Y projects, otherwise known as the Skunk Works. I worked predominantly helping to design and build extremely deep underground military bases. Thank you. Give you a short overview of my background. I'm a structural engineer, both aerospace as well as military applications. Graduate of University of Missouri as well as University of Manchester, England. I'm working that's about it for me. I worked in Vietnam, got torn to pieces, shot, whatever. Took 5 years to recuperate, came back, patched me up, so to speak. Went to work for Morrison Knudsen. And from Morrison Knudsen, I worked also with BG&G, Bechtel, Aerospatiale of France. Also worked with Fiat, which were allowing cars by Fiat. I did a lot of work overseas, but predominantly my field was underground mountain basin, also submarine basin. I wrote several treatises on analyzing rock formations like grain structure, and this grain structure would yield a certain pattern, and that certain pattern could be used to analyze and chemically analyze and make special explosives that could be used to blast out large caverns underground. And even when there were caverns, you could still use shaped charges to blast air and bog, although a lot of it was done by laser tunneling and drilling. I have a copy of a book here. I can't sell it. It's my only copy. But this fellow can corroborate with me. His name is Richard Stower, PhD. He can corroborate with me in regards to everything I'm talking about.
Who is it by?
Richard Stower, PhD.
Okay, there's another man that,
Okay, we need
put inside the room. You need to give him a ticket.
I will.
And all that.
I guess I'll let you know that for kind of the background, my father was a German U-boat captain, responsible for the sinking of 141 Allied boats. And we got captured by the French, then captured, and then turned over to Third Army, U.S., and then the Third Army turned them over to Naval Intelligence, based out of Pensacola, Florida. And he later went to work also in Navy black projects. Maybe that's where I started, but it worked out that way. Um, Anyway, he worked for naval operations. He worked on the infamous Philadelphia experiment. He was involved heavily with that. In fact, I have some of his original notes. Get it here. Why I made a thing here. Well, I included them, but I guess I didn't. Strange, they were right here. Oh, here they are. These are some of the original notes that he had to go to school to learn them at Berkeley. And they were discussing things like element 104 and 105 way back in 1950. So obviously, that school was a little more accelerated than schools normally of that particular day. Both in atomic physics and also in time variance. Anyway, my father continued to work in the U.S. Navy up until a couple of years before he died. He died 2 years ago, 1993, May of 93. But his main contribution, other than the Philadelphia experiment, was that he was one of the principal engineers of the first nuclear submarine, the USS Nautilus. And he worked with Hyman Rickover on that project to its fullest from start to finish. He helped design the nuclear reactor, he helped design the metals, the containment vessel, he did all the machining of the uranium pellets that were used. He designed the hull predominantly in some of the graving docks, so he was a major contributor of such today that even his ideas in air conditioning and filtration are still used today in all nuclear submarines in the United States. So that's so much for my father. He taught me a lot. He's a pretty silent fellow over time. He told me that I shouldn't work in black projects in the desert regions. Of course, I told him, sorry, I worked for a living. And in the early 60s, mid-60s, construction work didn't pay really tremendously. And that's where I got my start. One thing led to another. And when I went over to Vietnam, I got 10 times what a normal construction work would get. And within the richness too. And when I got hurt and recuperated, so 5 years later, I got hurt in 1970, and by 1975 I was bouncing around again. And so at that time I went to work for a number of contractors who were primarily underground-based builders. And of course, I might give you a brief overview. The first underground bases were basically old gold mines. Just the tunnels were already there. The first missile base, as a matter of fact, I don't believe was in northern Montana. It was the gold and silver mine. And the missiles are still in the old air shafts. Air shafts re-drilled out everything. And actually, what they made a semi-hardened missile base out of an old gold mine, which is kind of unique, same place. Well, first, basically, the main part of the talk will be on what I faced underground. Is there anybody here that is in the frame of mind that they can't take gore or another thing that there is, there might be a problem because I'm going to get rather graphic.
I don't like it, but I can say that.
I'll tone it down a bit, but I'll do it. This workshop basically is everything that I missed in the main talk yesterday. And of course, it's pretty hard to cram 3.5 or 4 hours talk in 50 minutes. I divided the talk into three topics. I'm talking about dumb bases, deep underground military bases, all dumb bases. Right now, there are 131 of them. 129 are fully operational. Each one averages about 4.25 cubic miles hollowed out underground at an average depth of 5,000 feet down. Now, of course, some of them are shallower, some of them are deeper. They're strategically located. They were initially built to protect the President of the United States and the government in general, federal government as well as the political government. Somehow the sheer number of the 129 bases with basically the size of a medium-sized U.S. city is kind of unfathoming when you're dealing with maybe only 10,000 people in government that would be saved during the nuclear holocaust or war. So obviously these bases have other ulterior means. Some of them have already been used to in-house alien beings. Our government chooses not to let this out to the public for two reasons. The first main reason is that they don't want to panic the public. And their second main reason is that they don't want the public to know the alien agenda. My first part of my talk will be talking predominantly about the alien agenda and what it means for us on planet Earth. And it's going to get pretty graphic. The alien agenda basically is thusly. Aliens of 11 distinct races have been arriving here on Earth in mass since 1946, predominantly, and maybe earlier. Actually, probably the Bikini Island was one humongous underwater UFO base, or basically flying disc base, and that was known in the early 1940s. It was March of 1940. It was known that there was a number of this activity at that time. Japanese, before we got into war with them, they had a number of problems with flying balls of light, as they called them, or divine second wind, as they also they thought they were godlike. However, the gods don't come down and murder the populace, so their idea of such ended rather abruptly. They became rather frightened, and they declared war with us, hoping that if they lost the war, this is strictly skeptical at this point in time, because I've heard just for a moment three different sources within the best name, that if we captured enough territory, maybe we could link them, and that would solve their problem. But although that's pretty skeptical, can't prove that way or not. The alien agenda basically is to take over planet Earth by another race of beings, or races of beings. The U.S. government has known about this alien agenda at least since early Hitlerian times, probably as early as 1933. The reason for that is the Third Army, under Patton and others, just afterwards, had lured that there was some other agenda other than World War II that was an immediate threat for people of this planet. In fact, General Douglas MacArthur was one time quoted in saying the very next war, that was toward the close of World War II in 1945, he actually was quoted in saying, the next war we have will be not from people of Earth, but it will be from people, the world war, talking about, or war will be from races from stars. Of course, this spawned a lot of speculative science fiction writing and that kind of thing like that. He was always, from then on, he's kind of looked at as a doddering old fool. He was a very visionary man, at least. If anything, you know about the alien agenda in World War I. Let me go further back in history. The first UFOs seen and occupants seen in caves and in and around Putin consequences, New Mexico, were spotted by U.S. Army cavalry in 1909. So this is a little earlier than most people had thought. Supposedly, U.S. cavalry had come across they were chasing some bandits, and we chased them in this area, and there was these caves, and they were rather highly infested with aliens, and what they called the silver wing. They didn't know what like all over around were very primitive aircraft, and of course the balloons, and that was about it. 1909, far back in time. Anyway, the alien agenda means, as far as anything goes, as far as the government is concerned, it is the worst scenario they could ever face. Because it involves not only having to tell the public major lies and innuendo all the time, but and keeping the public out of their face. Slowly it's breaking down, and I'm helping do that because I remember my forefather of this country, George Washington, one time saying, an uninformed populace is a populace devoted to slavery. And so one must consider that if we become uninformed and we ourselves have to take up battle against this kind of a scourge, if we're uninformed, then we're defeated already. So I'm not here to panic anybody or start a panic, but I feel that by lying to the American public, this is not the American way. We need to do something about that. As a matter of fact, as I'm talking, we need to also be talking and doing our homework regarding that. And there's a lot of people say, well, I don't have the time. You can take 20 minutes a day, can't you? And we can go from there. You'd be surprised at word of mouth is after you found out one little truth, another, very soon it becomes a snowball. But back to the alien agenda, throughout the almost half of the deep underground military bases in the United States, the 62 of them, of the 131, actually the 129 that are fully operational, the other two are under construction. 62 of these bases are housing both the tall gray as well as the short gray alien, and all their craft, and of course our government, especially the U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy predominantly, are trying to break this their technology down into usable technology for our own self. Case in point is this particular scenario. The F-117A, the B-2 bomber, maybe the Aurora, although that's not an accurate rendition of what it looks like. The airframes are predominantly made of alien metals beyond element 109, and metal composites, some of the skins of which are composed of rubber and carbon fiber, and the airframes are composed of complex carbon fibers mixed with elements such as mironite, which is element 123, which is extremely stable. I just kind of slapped this together. It's not quite as professionally done as these, but this was in Saudi Arabia. But at that time they had 58 of these. This was half the fleet. And I'll give you a view through these aircraft. First of all, it's got a radar absorbing material. That's the coal black coating. It's a type of a, in a while I'll get out some alien artifacts for you, some metals and some of the doping or painting that drips off of this when the aircraft is heated up to a white hot condition. And anyway, these are specially hangered. They have to be kept cool. They have to be kept at a temperature of 60 degrees roughly when they're not moving. There's faceting on the edges. The faceting is a scalenohedral crystalline form. It's a crystalline form that predominantly does not occur on planet Earth, and it is once again alien technology that has been adapted to Earth type or terrestrial type technology. These ideas were first thought of in Soviet Russia, and later they were adapted. They couldn't use that particular kind of thing in the early 70s, and so one of their scientists defected, came over here and started to work immediately with Lockheed. His name was Sublakov, I believe was his name. Anatoly Alexei. This fellow was also a pioneer and such. His name was Paul Benowitz. He was going to go public with the UFO and the alien agenda thing. He was a CIA pilot. He was also with the U.S. Air Force. Of course, they couldn't let that happen, so they stuffed him in the trunk of a car one night, took him off to a mental institution, and made him into a mental vegetable. He can't even write his own name today. If it wasn't for a brother who spent $1 million and a sister looking for him, he'd probably still been rotting away in some institution somewhere. Okay. What we've got here, like I mentioned, is basic alien technology that was adapted for us. Paul Benowitz, once again, he developed the shape of this aircraft, as well as how the bombs were to be dropped. He was also into other projects through Los Alamos. This is in Saudi Arabia, and I'll tell you a few statistics about this during the Gulf War. Would you like to borrow this? No, sure. Thank you. During the Gulf War, this particular aircraft had 4 large bombs underneath. They were called smart bombs, cruise missiles, and also rockets and machine gun fire, Vulcan cannon style, but even more advanced than that. I don't really know quite about that. There was one pilot that sat in here. He literally had to be crammed in, actually right up in here. They had to literally wedge him in there, and took a certain weight, size of individual in this aircraft. And all the Computronics was made by Mitsubishi Computronics and Heavy Electric Industries. The jets were both turbine as well as nuclear powered for extremely high flight. By the way, the smart bombs that were used in the Gulf War, 58 aircraft ran 3,706 sorties or missions. 100% of the bombs hit the target. 100% of the rockets hit the target. Shot up, completely destroyed the Iraqi air defense systems. It was a 100% system. Only one aircraft suffered one small hit, or actually where a missile just barely missed it. and it just chipped out part of that, but the aircraft was able to make it home. It was minor repair. The aircraft's back in service. But anyway, now there's some 179 of these built. They're building about one every other month. They're a $208 million aircraft. While this one here is about a $188 million aircraft and its problems. Although recently the F-117A, Black Jet as they're known as, originally housed at Nellis Air Force Base, Thunderbolt Test Range, S4, Groom Lake, you name it. These aircraft employed a three-dimensional radar. Everybody else's radar was two-dimensional. The Black Jets employed a three-dimensional radar, which was far superior. And its Computronics 2 also had a gray system to analyze bombing targets, and it was also the first aircraft where the pilot wore a helmet. It's called psychoenergetic range finding. It's a copy from the Russian technology, Soviet Russian technology, where a pilot can think in his own language and arm his weapons and pick his target from his computer. It's still employed in a second and third generation. And it's extremely accurate, not be faked. In other words, if another pilot decides to commit sabotage and jump in the cockpit, the plane won't even begin to run, let alone any of the missiles firing or anything else. So it's kind of a unique system. It's kind of like the signature gun. And of course, we've heard about those in different movies and whatnot. Now we have the Aurora, which is a trans-atmospheric vehicle. And the Aurora, there's 4 of them currently being tested. I know it's been refuted too by a couple of local gun shows before my lecture. He says, well, the Aurora doesn't exist, Phil, you know that. I said, well, really? I says, oh, well, I guess you don't think this exists either. And that was a picture, that was this map. He said, no, that doesn't exist either. And I said, really? Interesting. I suggest you have to see and learn something.
It was surpassing the Aurora now.
Yes, there are 2 other prototypes that are small space shuttles capable of speeds in excess of 40,000 miles an hour. And plus, we also employed 29 prototypes of flying saucer and are successful in piloting those at up to 90,000 miles an hour in the atmosphere without burning up. That's doing something, because when we push, you go beyond Mach 3, actually beyond Mach 2.7, you ionize the air around it, and you cause the elements of the air to actually catch fire, and you need a force field around that system to exceed Mach 3 or Mach 4 without burning up, because you'll be as hot as a glowing meteorite coming in at about 30 or 40,000 degrees. Anyway, the Aurora, there's 4 of them flying. They fly day and night. They have 12 people in it as a crew. They can have a skeleton crew of as few as 6. They can basically leave Tonopah Test Range at 7 o'clock in the morning, do a complete loop around Russia and China, take all the pictures. They're predominantly a spy plane. They can take pictures, come back for lunch. That's how rapid it is. They attain from basically zero. They're not going, this aircraft, and this aircraft are anti-lifting bodies. They are not conventional winged aircraft. A flying saucer theoretically is a circular wing. These are not. These are anti-lifting bodies. In other words, it takes an incredible amount of speed before they're able to take off. This is all part of the one world government type system. I try to stay away from the political end, but it's kind of like the one world government system. Take over the planet, and hopefully we don't have to tell the people of the planet what the alien agenda is. The alien agenda is what probably never meant, the aliens never meant that we were going to alter the bargain, but the aliens were the ones back in 1954 who cut a treaty with us saying that, well, we'll give you a list of the people that we implant and the cattle we mutilate, and we'll give you a reason why and everything. Of course, that never happened. They kept altering the bargain until finally, in 1979 in Dulce, New Mexico, I was involved in that operation. We had gone down there to build an auxiliary base in the southern end of Dulce, New Mexico, already existing base on Archuleta Mesa. And lo and behold, when we drilled down, we found aliens were already in there and have been in there for some time. I can tell you, when you're standing, say, as I am here, to where this gentleman is over here, and that's an alien gray who's pretty much 7 feet tall and the meanest looking bastard you ever saw, and not looking like a human being, you kind of get petrified. And as an engineer, of course, I didn't carry a regular big clunky 45 or anything with belt because they would get in the way. I carried tools and other kinds of things with my belt, and I always carried a small pistol, Walter BB2, a 9-shot clip, 380. And I emptied one clip into two of these alien critters, as they call them, and yes, they are mortal. But I got also, as soon as that happened, as I was reloading, I never got the clip into the gun. They hit me in the chest with some kind of particle beam weapon that gave me a very high dose of nuclear radiation, similar to cobalt radiation. I mean, quite even more nasty. And I was in isolation afterwards for 50 some odd days, 57 days all total. And it took another couple of years to recuperate. Once again, I was in my body was in a traumatic situation. But here I am talking, so sorry to go again. But I've got the scars to prove it.
I can verify that they.
Yeah, so it's pretty gross. It's pretty gross, and I don't want to. There's a ladies present here, so let's not raise the shirt here. But they're there, and basically, in talking about alien agenda, we have to also be talking about what occurred over here. This is the Bikini Atoll test. Now here we have an actual extremely large, in quote, mothership, right at the point of neutron flash cloud. That's like 2 or 3 10,000ths of a second after the initial blast. And of course, the date of this is 12 July 1946. As we all remember, if we read our history on UFOs and how they started, it wasn't really known. As a matter of fact, after Roswell, we remember that there was a Senate hearing and House of Representatives hearing, a closed door session hearing, but a little bit leaked out in the public. And it stated that the government knew nothing about UFOs prior to that time. And these pictures, these different pictures with UFOs actually in the pictures, actually with the original language, show that, I'm sorry, actually show that the government lied to the Congress of the United States. They knew full well what was going on, at least a year prior. Of course, I believe the Roswell incident was 2nd of July of 1947. This occurred, of course, 2nd of July. I think the earliest A-bomb blast, 12th July, 12 July 1946, almost a full year before they were supposed to know anything. And here we have these streaks, and these are the classic discs that have all been pictured like this. Kind of look like the Top Hat series, as I call it. Most are kind of, you know, coal black. Because some of them have a radiant, have atomic, propulsion system underneath it. You know, streaks have all been confirmed as being just that. They're a type 3A flying disc. And we have these small white dots. White dots. By the way, these guys here are receding from the ocean, taking the trajectory. They're getting out of there in the worst way. They'll probably not make it because of the radiation factor, but they're exceeding at speeds in excess of 13,000 miles an hour, and the white dots are exceeding 30,000 miles an hour as they're leaving, and they have actually changed the color. They've almost gone out of scope, and you're seeing a photograph, very rapid photograph of a blurred image. Some of the photographs go from a black splash or dash to this white dot system, and then they go out of scope of what we call visual reality. And that takes a tremendous speed to do that. This particular overview shot, which is an extremely rare photograph of an atomic blast, as far as I know, this is the only one ever shown to the public of an overview of any kind. There are small dots and dashes, basically, as I'd say, these are old garbage scouts and ships and whatnot that they put in harm's way to see what the reaction would be of an atomic blast. And I'm sure the atomic testing was conducted predominantly in case we had to be prepared in using atomic warfare to fight alien influence, and they needed cover stories. So this was the Russians and the Cold War and everything was just a perfect cover story. Although it later became more than a cover story, as we all know. These particular photographs also show small dots and dashes, as I would say, and all of them have been confirmed. Now, this black system here in the atomic cloud is actually time on being ripped up, of course, the atmosphere and the clouds and everything, and then time being warped by the initial blast itself, and that's by neutrinos going through and ionizing space, ionizing the atmosphere and whatnot, but exceeding the speed of light, so you produce an antimatter background and you get total blackness. And of course, here we have another UFO similar to is here. But once again, we haven't been told the truth on any of this. We've been right here also in this picture in the bombing of Hiroshima, Nagasaki. This is of Nagasaki. Down at the bottom, we see the characteristic human face, which is typical of all A-bomb explosions over populated areas. You will always find a human face at the bottom of the mushroom cloud. Now, nobody really knows if this is just by coincidence or the makeup of the cloud or whatever. But these little dots and dashes, and these white dots and dashes, are receding at better than 30,000 miles per hour, and they're UFOs leaving the scene. Japan was infested with them. Their Navy had counted better part of 2 million of them toward the closing end of World War II. Once again, it's all part of an alien attack of planet Earth. It's been going on steadily since World War II era. It's still going on, only now it's subverted into large groups of human beings being actually abducted and implanted, and that's according to the Roper report, which is part of the Remington Rand Corporation, who did the reporting, the Bigelow Holding Company. Now they're in a third generation report, and of that third generation report that was sent out to all the clinical psychologists in the United States, 110,000 of them, stated that basically women are being raped by aliens. And I know as fantastic as that sounds, it's backed up by John Mack, Harold Wire, who's an MD as well as a clinical person. There's John Mack is the most famous, but there's some 90 concerned psychiatric scientists who are trying to form an organization to prevent secrecy on the subject because they have mentioned this is nothing but government-sponsored rape. And 99.3% are women, 0.7 or 0.7% are men that are abducted and implanted. So it's predominantly a female type of monitoring system. So once again, the alien agenda is to disturb the natural progress of the human race and to alien agenda beings. And of course, there's another thing to mention: any outer space alien, regardless of who they are, how benevolent or how evil they are, they're a biological hazard because we have no defense against their germs. Absolutely none. In fact, they can kill us just by being around. I developed something like jungle rot. I still got it on my feet and on my back, and because of the Dulce, New Mexico thing, I get free hospitalization for the rest of my life. In fact, I'm a good guinea pig, I guess. But theoretically, that's from being around inside that cave at that particular time. That's the first time I've told any of you people that, but that's basically what it's all about. Check our time here. Well, we've talked about the dumb bases and the black projects predominantly, and the alien agenda. I would like to stick to another subject. It's called Strategic Defense Initiative. Of course, this could very easily be, as mentioned by my late friend Ron Lee Rummel, who was murdered, incidentally, by the three people who conspired to kill him. One person did the killing. One was a NSA officer, and one was an alcohol, tobacco, and firearms officer. Both are in custody as we speak. The third gentleman is fighting extradition. He's in Czechoslovakia. Most likely able to successfully fight extradition because they don't follow U.S. law very well. Anyway, the Strategic Defense Initiative probably, instead of preventing incoming missiles, although they're now most nations favored and otherwise have nuclear missile technology, there's probably some form of outer space defense against outer space attack, and it's pretty primitive indeed, but it's better than nothing. And the second part of my talk will be aliens and the alien agenda. I've already touched on that. Old alien bases. But like I said, Bikini Island, according to what was studied after the A-bomb blast, some of the caves that were infested with out-of-place artifacts dealing with UFOs and other kinds of paraphernalia had rock forming around them, so they had been basically an alien junkyard in shallow seas for probably the better part of 10,000 years. So they've been around. That you might call an old alien base. Dulce, New Mexico is another old alien base, or kind of a botryoidal or clear agate had formed over some of the parts laying on the floor of the existing base, and it takes an extremely long period of time for, geologically speaking, for this to form. The aliens have probably been here the better part of at least 500,000 and maybe as much as several million years, although I have artifacts here which show artifacts that like small turbine looking device sitting in 220 million year old fossil coral. And I also have alien metals which are present in other kinds of rock formations, including a piece of petrified wood where an insect had basically burrowed a hole around one of its limbs, and then something had literally, like a laser, had literally sliced through it, but the cambium or the actual layers of the wood had bent as the beam burnt its way through it. I've got that in here too, as well as an original piece of instantly petrified, looks like a garlic root that was found in and around Area 51. And this particular piece of garlic type plant was instantly petrified, contains the same exact chemical structure of the quartz crystal. And the quartz crystal only grows in a certain left-handed crystal pattern. And that same pattern is extant on fossil, instantly petrified or fossilized plant life of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's identical, chemically identical. So, anyway, the next part of this, second part of the talk, are treaties. Basically, there were 4 distinct treaties made through the United States government from the alien encounter. The first one was in 1944. The second one was 1954. The third one was 1962. The fourth one was 1979. I'll go backwards. The 1979 treaty was a total violation of, incidentally, in Dulce, New Mexico, where I got badly hurt. 66 Secret Service and Delta Force people lost their lives, 22 of which were on loan from other countries, Israel, Germany, Norway, South Africa, if I remember. I was the only geological engineer down there to analyze the situation. The government only basically lied to us. They kind of said that alien presence might be there, but they didn't tell us that they knew that there was an alien base and that they'd already attempted to make contact. And of course, that's disturbing indeed. In fact, a couple of the engineers who managed to survive put the project under duress. Another part of the talk are the intelligence community. The Nazi group, the World War II Nazi or Hitlerian group, the Fatherland Intelligence Agency, trained our CIA, our OSS, which became our CIA, and other intelligence communities predominantly, and are still being employed today as we, in quote, the federal government today trains Bosnian troops on American soil, and from what I understand, that's totally illegal, and that's another topic. Now, the third part of the talk is the types of aliens. The large gray two large grays that I shot and killed. I can't tell you how ugly they were, and I can never tell you how graphic the stench was. But in the cave, there were large cauldrons or tanks. They kind of looked like a big oval cattle feeding tank, but they weren't. They were special, looked like stainless steel or metallic tank. They were filled with alien and human body parts, and generally glands and what looks like some kind of blood. I've always been taught that blood after a few minutes starts to congeal, but this was one of these vessels that in the melee had tipped over and all this bloody liquid had spilled out. It was a mess, and it was definitely not coagulated. How they did this is anybody's guess. So if we remember anything about cattle mutilations, we might also think that basically the blood in these cattle are totally drained out. There's no blood around blood around, in quote, the murder scene of the case. So, so this might be the way they're doing it. Now, whether this is sponsored by our government or other governments is a good guess. If it were up to me, I'd say yes, we're in the thick of it. We made a pact with the aliens, and therefore we must know what their agenda is, and also the federal government must also further know that if they keep the big lie going, they must be in the thick of it in the worst way. And if that's the case, they're enemy of gross concern.
Who is we? Say?
We, in quote, the federal government, the Department of State, Department of State, Department of the Air Force, Navy, Army, Marine Corps, basic force services, plus the military policing facilities, and FBI and all that. They're also into the Black Projects as a whole. In this part of the Black Projects, there's kind of like an outer sphere of normal Black Projects, like building everything from these kind of aircraft here, and doing these kind of experiments here, building aircraft like this, places like this. And that's kind of on the outside. On the inside of this circle, we get a tighter group of people who really know what the main agenda is, maybe even the enslavement of the human race as a remnant, or something in as a scenario like that. And then finally a third category whereby none of the other two categories would even hint at the possibility or the horror of what's happening. And it's a very compartmentalized system. I can only begin to guess, even though that I've been in the thick of things from the outer core to the second core level, but I have no idea what's in the third core level. No way at all. And because it's so complicated, I've heard some of this run by me. It's so fantastic. It makes a Star Wars or a movie or a Star Trek novel or a Babylon 5 novel. It's like a kid's toy. I mean, it's too fantastic for me to believe. So I can assume that it might be a otherworldly plan or scenario for taking over the planet, but once again, I can't prove it, so I don't talk about it. Right here, I'm only basically to discuss basically what I know of the alien agenda and through deep underground military base and the application that I did during this kind of active U.S. government. I'll have question and answer period in short time. I've already talked about firefights. I will tell you right now, I'm breaking major federal law. I'm breaking my entire security oath system. Security oaths, in fact, here's a copy of my 1985 security clearance. You might zoom in on that if you care to. Do that.
Yeah.
Tell me when. Okay. And of course, it's got a picture of me. It's got Department of the Air Force. It's got a control number here. It's got a digital control number and name here. It's got a UPC stripe here. It's got a level L. That was only issued to people that worked in Room A and Area S4. And R, restricted zone R4808E. This is a computer chip camera in the card itself. You didn't wear the card like you wore another security card. This one wasn't worn. This was used to get you into the main gate. And there was a large machine. I can't draw it. There was a large machine that looked like a kind of like a curved. The bottom part, put the card in, and you put your thumbprint on. You're supposed to actually, some of them had two of them. I don't have the second thumb, so this one was made with one. There's normally two here in the L hopefully no person would be up through the UPC strip. So there was one, and I put my thumb there on the bottom, and if it would flash green, I'd flick the switch. And then I'd insert the card in the second part of the control unit, and there'd be a thing that would hold my forehead, and I could block off my left eye, and I'd stick this thing up to my right eye and take a picture of my retina. And then if a green light went off, I could remove my card and I could leave it at the guard shack, and I'd wait for anywhere from 45 minutes to several hours waiting for the next shift to start. I'm breaking all my security oaths by coming out in the open and talking about this, because not only are we dealing with a kind of technology I believe that we should be out, that should be out in the public. It should, at least this kind of 50 and 60-year-old material should be out in the public. I feel that in coming clean, so to speak, I don't know quite how to explain it other than the fact that when I initially was told these underground bases were for security in case of nuclear attack in the United States, and it was a total lie. When I found out that the aliens were actually entrenched in half of these bases, and these bases, by the way, cost a minimum of $17 billion apiece. The black budget garners $508 billion a year, $1.023 trillion every 2 years. That's 2-year-old information. It's probably more like 1.3 trillion now, which is about 1/4 of the gross national product of the United States. It's no wonder why our economy is kind of up and down here and there. Once again, you might ask, well, how in the heck? We've only been told, we the public have only been told there's a total defense budget of $447 billion. So how can that be $500 billion going on behind the scenes? First of all, black budget means hidden budget. Hidden budget is totally hidden from congressional view and oversight, cannot be audited by the U.S. Treasury system at all. It is a separate, independent taxing body entity within the federal government structure, which, by the way, is illegal. Totally illegal. It's primarily financed by drug operations by the CIA and the NSA and the Drug Enforcement Administration, and now the FBI is implicated also. Recently there was an FBI man that came out of the cold, so to speak, and told all, only to find himself murdered, and he took a vacation in England. He got himself murdered. That was in the paper about 3 years ago. Anyway, 9 attempts on my life have been taken, all since the 1st of January of this year. Well, I've been shot at, been run off the road. 3 times I've been run off the road, one of which is I'm a very good driver. I used to race cars, but somewhat of a hobby type living. I used to race everything from Formula One on down, motorcycles and stuff like that when I was a kid, so I lived kind of on the edge all the time. So I became a very good driver and a very defensive driver, and so if somebody's trying to run me off the road, like before my Vegas talk, I dropped a friend of mine off at 29 Palms area, saw another friend in the Marine Corps hospital who was dying of cancer. On the way out of there, you have to skirt around a whole mountain range. You just can't take the easiest way and straight line out, to be honest. It doesn't work that way. You have to skirt around these mountains. I had a Ford Taurus with a police interceptor motor, and roughly an 8-liter motor. It's a real monster. And there were 2 long Ford E350 vans, and they all had Air Force markings on it. They were they all had guns and they were all shooting and they were missing I flew by them and took a picture of their, as a blur, I took a picture of them, got a very good picture of their license plate. And, then they sped up and tried to squeeze me in this way, and then finally I just slid right in the middle of the road, and the road was wide enough for basically one-way traffic. And one of them went over, rolled over, and kept going down for about 300 or 400 feet down a very steep ravine. The other one was a shallow ravine about 10 feet deep. And I just kind of peered over, got my, hooked my seatbelt, peered over, and there was a big fire started on down there. I could hear people screaming, but I'm sorry, it's their deal. I just kept on going. That was one way. Recently I got shot at when I was with a retired FBI agent. We were going to go to a Patriot talk show down near Salem, Oregon. And I got shot here. It's what's called a CIA cocktail. I don't have normal ribs after Dulce, New Mexico fiasco where my ribs were burnt, cauterized, my fingers are burnt off of me, etc. I have a plastic plate in here, a nylon plate that had bumps on, looks like ribs and everything. So those bullets just kind of just lodged in this thick, 5-inch thick plastic, a movable plastic thing in the inside. And that was dug out. And once again, here I am recuperating from another problem. And all because I'm trying to bring the American public, and I love my country more than my life, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this ridiculous group of things by coming clean. But I feel I have to because the American public was not only been lied to, but when I was asked to by the intelligence community within the Air Force to continue my operations in black budget work, Delphi work. What would I think if they said that I would be betraying the American public? I'd tell them to go fly it, go to seven or whatever. Because I won't be a party to that. And I walked out of the room, and somebody tried to tell me to come back, and it was out of my face, fell over here on the ground. He wouldn't get out of my face and went on the ground. And I walked away, and then on and made a decision. And I'll stick by it. And that's why I'm here talking. I also want to get a little political sided here, although I don't like to. Right now we have a out of touch, runaway federal government structure that really doesn't care about the way you and I feel. They manipulate evidences of crimes, as in several instances, both in Waco and other. The Waco hearings should have been a wake-up call to most who are watching, even if they'd only watched a piece of it. It's once again proves the federal government structure was just running away with everybody's freedom, and they run roughshod over. They've actually become kings and queens over us, and our forefathers told us exactly what would happen if we took a certain stand. If we made laws to legislate God out of our system, we would have a similar problem. If we made laws or had too many people making the laws within our government structure, we would have a similar problem that we're facing today. We're facing a form of tyranny and totalitarianism. Incidentally, you might want to throw a few statistics by you. And it's quite provable in a number of talks given recently, both by the United Nations and others. The United Nations is entrenched in our country, but training our troops. So our troops are being trained by the United Nations in the United States, and I think that's kind of an oddball system. Russian troops are being trained on basically Montana and North Dakota and the northern territories, Washington, upstate Washington, etc. There's a stockpiling of Russian tanks and hardware by the U.S. Army. For what purpose? Also, we have purchased at the cost of some $38 billion all the Russian nerve gas. Nerve gases are their nerve gas is extremely long shelf life. We're destroying our own nerve gas, which has a relatively short shelf life of 15 years. The Russian variety is extremely deadly, and also, I'll tell you something else about that. The Russian nerve gas is composed primarily of glandular secretions, and they even mentioned that as they were downing the flying saucers within their own country, they found a way of making chemical weapons from some of the alien cadavers and that kind of thing like that. So from some of the glandular excretions. So once again, biological weapons against the people of the United States. There have been other talks given by other people alerting to this, including Ted Gunderson, who's an ex-FBI agent, who got tired of the federal government tromping on him. And another ex-astronaut by the name of James Groden, not the Groden of Alternative 3 book fame, but this is another book. A number of key government people have started coming out slowly, but unfortunately it's at a snail's pace. I'm the only one that ever worked and had a level 3 security clearance that came out from the Colt, so to speak, and completely laid everything open to the American public or any public. Something like this was tried in Britain and in France, but the person got jailed. Incidentally, I can't be charged with espionage theoretically because, according to our, including one person, they said, "Oh, this place doesn't exist." Well, it's on an aerial map, kind of different. If it doesn't exist, then I'm just full of you know what, hype and hooey, so to speak, and I'm just crazy or something like that, and so be it. That if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. You know, how can I be charged with a crime on something that doesn't exist? The other thing is that to be guilty of espionage would have to sell for dollars or cents or some form of monetary gain the information that you impart. I'm not doing that in communication before. Talk, the lecture is counted as actual exchange of money by another individual for the information or the proscribed information. Well, I'm going to be getting out a few alien artifacts here and I'll let you take a look, and you're welcome to kind of stretch your legs a little bit. Take feet. We're also so good to see them talking about to look at very carefully, and I'll leave my hand lens out for you to take a peek. By the way, when you use this hand lens, you want to get right up on the object like this. You'll see a line going straight through with the wood layers, the cambium coming this way as whatever went through it, burnt through it. It's very interesting. And there's another out-of-place artifact of boom parts, so to speak. It's another fossil. This is at one time a cave mushroom, a fossil plant. Something cut it absolutely perfectly, like a laser, cut right through the thing, and part of it slid off, and it later got perfectly petrified, similarly to the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bomb test with a similar signature. And here's this petrified, instantly petrified garlic plant. Incidentally, this is 65 to 100 million years old. This is 105 to 130 million years old. This is roughly 30 million years old. It has the exact chemical makeup and structure of quartz crystals formed on its surface and on the internal structure of the plant itself, which the top part, of course, the sprout is all broken off. This is the sprout underneath it. And the quartz crystals are identical to material found at Hiroshima and Nagasaki out there at Sweet Hawk Swamp. Now here's a bottle of the RAM coating of the blackjacks. Of course, when they come in after their mission, they're glowing red hot, and they drip this stuff, particulate material, off on this in-coat tarmac. This isn't tar, it's a special cement, and it just drips. And maybe some of these aircraft, you might see drip spots like here and here and there and different places. And this is the material, it's like lava drops off of it. It also contains certain alien elements, or alien reproduced elements. Here's a piece of fossil coral from Jordan, having a small particular non-fossil, and it isn't a crinoid. It might be, some of you might know what a crinoid fossil is. It's kind of like an underwater lily or plant, seawater lily, but this isn't it. This is actual machined out part similar to a rotor fan, a miniature rotor fan, a small engine right there. This is element 123, which is also in topaline. Topaline and element 123, they're very much heavier than uranium. They're island of stability elements. They're, by the way, these pieces of metal I've purchased with my own money when I worked for the government, as they were test samples. They never bothered to pick them back up, nor did they pay me back for them, so they're my property. But it's a golden orange metal. The pure metal is pure golden orange, and like lead, you can just carve it. It's a very peculiar metal indeed. Totally stable, cannot be isotoped. Element 123 with an atomic weight of about 320, and here it is. It's almost twice the weight of uranium.
Where did that come from, Phil?
That was formed down at Dulce, New Mexico, and also there were scrap heaps and scrap piles of it in and around Tonopah Test Range, which is here. Tonopah Test Range is actually room lake.
That metal from our soil? Is it metal from our soil?
No, this is an alien. This is two alien elements. And here, if I might show you, highest grit lamp out of the highest grit lamps out of 180. I thought I had some. Yeah, here we go. Years ago. This periodic chart was developed by a number of scientists anonymously, don't want their name revealed. Of course, all we're familiar with is element 103. That's been around for a long time. And a couple of these are made in Russia. These that don't have any name, they're very short-lived indeed. Element 109 to 110 also. But after, from 111 to 140, these are all elements that were garnered off of alien attack vehicles or alien spaceships or flying saucers when they were taken apart. You know, topaline is here, element 117, and element 123 is mirinite. It's a combination of both those for an extremely hard substance capable of withstanding temperatures in excess of 9,500 degrees Fahrenheit to as much as 14,000 degrees Fahrenheit. This piece of material is kind of in a fleur-de-lis pattern. This kind of material is lighter than lithium. Of course, lithium is number 3 Might want to point out it's number 3 on the scale. It's a terrestrial element, but this is somewhere between 2 and 3, between helium and lithium. It also is an alien element. It's what they call a mixture, an admixture element. It's extremely light, and it's used in the airframes of all black jets and F-117A, B-2, and B-1, B-2, and B-30, or the Aurora series. And it comes in a scalenohedrocrystalline form, which is alien. It's kind of a dead giveaway. Here's a tabular scalenohedrocrystalline form, 4 times the hardness of a diamond, 4 times the tensile strength, capable of withstanding temperatures in excess of 45,000 degrees Fahrenheit before chemical breakdown. It is used in the window the small slit windows there in the underbelly and the blackened out windows of the actual cockpit, although most of these pilots fly blind. They don't ever see anything from the ground. So this that's also an alien material, and it is element, if I remember right, it's element 113. Here's another alien element formed in the confines of outer space. You might ask, what are we space shuttling? With all our shuttle missions, of course, we're being lied to every time they talk or open their lips, open their mouth. The same crystalline structure is here as well as it is here. This material is the hardness of a diamond. It's also used in the rotor and propeller shafts of propellered aircraft or rotor aircraft. It's also used in high-speed drills and other kinds of things like that, which are used to make holes in metals that cannot be touched with a welding torch. And this, of course, is that hunk of metal. And I have a real treat here. When I was 14 years old, I was with my father, who was talking to us, Sir Johnny Rawlins, Johnny H. Rawlins, who was a British naval sea lord, and he had collected some of the trash retrieval objects of the infamous Roswell crash, and these are actually little bits of the skin that have. And of course, you remember the skin, you couldn't bend it or cut it or anything. The way they did this, of course, they dropped liquid nitrogen on it, and they used a hammer technique of shattering it, and it became brittle. But once again, it's composed of nothing but alien elements, which are, by the way, we're not able to understand where this particular elements come from in the skin. It's the thickness of the sheets of paper you're writing on, and that's all it's needed to be meteor-proof and missile-proof and everything else. And these things have crashed, of course, and they've also been shot down by luck. Predominantly, not by skill. And I'll let you look at that by, you can handle these other things, but don't handle this.
You say they've been shot down, Phil. How would they have done that with a
Charge particle
particle?
and team weapon, as well as a railgun. Reusable railgun. And,
That works to remind the shotgun, you spray it out.
no, not really. A railgun is an electronic gun, and it shoots a projectile about 25,000 miles an hour, much faster than any rifle. I'll have a question and answer period. You can come up, take a look at these artifacts. Here's a couple of magazines. Spotlight. Anyway, there's the Alien Digest. I've got my friend killed. Here's some of my father's notes. Those are blanks there. But, famous popular science about secret airbase. By the way, if it doesn't exist, how come they printed it? Here's a Nazi saucer. That was done by Vladimir Chersky, who was a Russian space engineer of some fame. Here's a new periodic chart of the elements. You can go ahead and look through it. Incidentally, here is a unique piece of hardware too. It's an ordinary gold watch. The only thing unique about this particular gold watch is that it's a Waltham, but on the back, on the reverse, it's made in Montauk, New York. Just happened to be used by my dad in the Philadelphia experiment. And it happens to be keeping rather accurate time. Anyway, I need a seat. And I'll let you look.
Maybe we get one of those heavy tires.
Actually, heavy is in Mernite, that kind of old-looking material. Be very gentle with these. These aren't normal specimens. And one person handling one piece at a time.
Did we get a periodic chart like that? You saw those?
Yes, I do. Which are $4 a piece.
Okay, I'll take one.
And a year ago, these were secret. Above top secret. By the way, here's your thank you very much. Let's see what's for them. After we take a look, I'm going to ask you to take your seat and we'll have a question and answer period. And then I'll wrap it up. Okay. Aerial maps are $2 from one of those. Those are actual aerial maps used at Groom Lake. Those are made in 1966. Also have portfolios of selected pictures of the atomic bomb blasts at Bikini, as well as Val Thor. And if there's some of them that need labeling, I'll label them for you after the talk.
Do you have one like that?
Yes, I do. Matter of fact, if you do this, I can't spell. Take a look inside of that canyon, so to speak. I'm in an interesting formation. See how the wood fibers have just literally been separated. Yeah, that's right. Of course, you've heard about straws and going through telephone poles after a tornado. Well, maybe this was that kind of a thing, although it seems really remote.
Oh, those are $20.
Yeah, these are $20, and they're a select group. I'll tell you what, I'll just roll this in. How about that? What's inside these here? There's a select group of pictures, like here in the street, saucers, everything ground zero. I have other ones that are marked with USS Eldridge. This is, by the way, is the USS Eldridge ready room. It's a ready room aboard the USS Eldridge, and I think Albie will verify that. And that's one of their. I think how many ready rooms? Is Al here?
Yeah.
How many ready rooms were aboard the USS Eldridge?
Theoretically, two. I only do one because that's the only one I ever wanted.
Okay.
The lecturing varied between various lectures.
There's a list of lecturers, different people. Not all the people, although you can do your homework and probably find that out. These are going after this talk. These placards are going to be duplicated on special paper and sent to the United States Senate, and of which these pictures will not only be totally declassified, but will be out in public domain.
Well, they're taking a picture of all of them.
And if anything's not marked, if I haven't marked, I'll try and identify them for you. What's that? I could give you a map with Green Lake also. Sure. All Travis.
Yes, what a difference. They have this.
What's your state of it's what all of us.
Just aired from there.
Or me.
Here I give them a couple more talks. I am uprooting myself. I'm programming with Idaho. Go through both. No, I don't think so. I'll go through all. So there's one. Yeah, I don't like the guy. That's a good thought. Yep. And it is. What is that called there? It's called RAM. I call him the fellow sent to him at the Aurora drops. Sent to me by the base command over the time. So that is about work. I help you with the niche. Anyway, radar absorbing, sure. Incidentally, you can take your portfolios and copy the actual Joint Army-Navy Task Force language under those photographs, and that's the official language. I've stuck my own wordage.
You have all of them. You don't have all of them here, do you?
Yes, well, I don't have all of them, but there's a select group. I'm gonna look through it and all the different ones that are selected.
You know, that's 2 years ago, you said?
Yeah. You got a A-bomb in these, they play it.
I'm amazed at all that.
First, Colin Borbeck. I'll get rid of that. Pardon me, but I've got a thick seat in my back and my chest, no, head still hurts.
You want us to wait to ask questions?
No, actually, we'll continue to look for it, because people will write down the names of the, I'm gonna start the Q&A here in about 10 minutes, and 5 minutes, if you don't mind.
Wait, that's it. Okay.
Did you leave those out? I don't want them, but they did.
I think you'll have to sign up for the video, and you may have to.
I said, I don't want to be in the video, but I want to see what.
Oh, okay. Did you hear the lady? She doesn't want to be in the video, but she'd like to look at those.
Go ahead.
So when she's up here, we'll shut your camera off. Which one is this? Yeah, right here. Which event is this? That's right here, this one. Flying disc living ground zero, Front Army, Community Task Force, time photograph. Whatever you suppose. Yes, this was the Keenan Island, Keenan Island. Uh,
What day is that? 47?
yeah. You can go on and then I'm sorry to walking. When I walked away, 2,900 engineers walked away. We walked away in a great. We submitted our papers to the U.S. Supreme Court immediately through the Ninth Court, the Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco.
Withdrawing from the job.
And
Have they had problems like you?
oh, yes, quite a few people, there's another thing I might want to mention very briefly. How about cold fusion? Suppose that, Nobel laureate, physicist, of course, that was very quickly quashed because if cold fusion became a reality, we could make our own electricity in our kitchen. And make car batteries for our cars that would last forever and other kinds of things like that. Cold fusion, this is the chemical formula for the metal oxide that used in cold fusion, which is very similar to the metal oxides in alien elements used in airframes of black chips.
Earl,
What?
does the average engineer in this country not, understand the thing about the bomb not being possible?
I haven't talked to a single engineer. I've probably talked to 400 of them so far, and everyone knows the federal government is involved up to their eyeballs.
How about school teachers, scientists, a degree?
School teachers, I haven't talked to too many of them. They still believe it was the life of bomb.
Most school teachers don't think.
Most school teachers, you're right, do not think. Higher education is a joke. Most we do this anymore here?
Was that just a bond thing, these are the cold fusion?
Yeah.
And your point was that it was valid.
It was very valid. It was proven. The people donated the award to Greenpeace at the end of it all. One of them, and I just think anyway, the award was $140,000 for their discovery, and the military said, no, you can't do this. Now they're working with cold fusion with Japan. The information is forbidden to be told the public of the United States. Once again, we're treated as babies and children by our federal government structure and told that and lied to and saying that this is what I believe. I'll tell you folks, if we don't do some serious changing and talking in groups, maybe in small groups like I'm doing, maybe not coming, have to come clean and come out of the woodwork, so to speak. But you have to talk in groups of what you learn. And if you do this, word of mouth is a wonderful thing. And from that, we might be able to continue and have our freedoms that we so aptly take for granted in these wonderful United States. I've been in over 70 countries. I've never found another country as beautiful as the United States.
Well, Einstein, yeah, first, she said that
Now we're going to have the question and answer period.
when it came to the nuclear, you can apply to all this other kind of stuff, having to do with rares. That was 50 years old.
Question and answers, folks. You got them? Let's hear them.
I was reading in that underground book, that I purchased.
Oh, the Richard Sauter book.
Yeah, and he was talking about, or I've been interested in the underground railroad system ever since I heard Bill Bailey talk about it about the dollars.
I helped build the tunnel.
But in the book, they don't tell anything about the newer drills that build the tunnels.
Well, there are no drills.
There's no drills.
No drills.
It's a nuclear boring machine.
Nuclear boring machine that literally melts or deflagrates the rock. It with extremely fine powder, melts it, and sticks it on the walls.
But he said in the book that he didn't know if they had ever went ahead and made that machine.
The machine's existing, but I can tell you even who Krupp of West Germany made the machine.
He had no pictures of the later of that machine. What he had was more of the obsolete machines.
Even obsolete equipment can drill up to 7 miles a day. And we've been lied to when they say a quarter of a mile a day.
Even through solid rock.
Even through solid rock. Yes, sir.
7 miles a day.
Even if they have to take the material out and haul it away.
There's nothing to take that.
There's another, nothing to pick out and speak of, so vaporized. Here's another piece of titanium metal mixed with alien elements. Very hard material. This braid is used in all of the black jets, stealth aircraft.
Why was the big mercury mines that were found by Las Vegas, why were they confiscated?
They run very deep. For one thing, they were used for everything from atomic waste disposal to putting bad news aliens and making a little jail out of it, I guess, if you want to call it. It's a good way of, once again, hiding the problem from the public.
So it's tied into the underground system where the mines were?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they were just, where were they by? They were outside of Las Vegas, I've heard.
They're over near Mercury, Nevada.
You were talking about 129 of the underground bases and about half of them being used to house the aliens. What are the other half used for?
The other half are used strategically by different military organizations, mostly Army and Air Force and Navy, for research and development laboratories predominantly, and also medical research and development laboratories and chemical weapon laboratories. Once again, these bases have been built unceasingly day and night since 1940. And if you were to add up all the bases, all the cost of all the bases, it's pretty close to $2 quadrillion.
How can they keep this so the public so uninformed?
Well, it's pretty easy.
The people that live around the area.
It's pretty easy to keep it away from the public. They've done a real good job of it, with the exception of people like myself that come out of the woodwork. Those big, the public believes a lie, a big lie. Of course, you know the old adage about lies is you have to keep telling them to keep, and then you get to a point in time where you believe them to such a degree that you become part of the lie. You live the lie.
Is this where they do their cloning?
Supposedly, a lot of these things are horrific beyond degree. Traumatic events that I went through caused me to get professionally taken care of by at the Bethesda Naval Hospital, among other places. And that gave me something like battle stress or delayed stress syndrome. I learned to slowly work my way out of that. It was not easy.
What's going on in Weld County, Colorado with them having a lot of changes and also having the most cattle mutilations in the whole world?
Cattle mutilations are government-sponsored alien operations and have been since they were first started in 1967. Actually, they were probably going on much earlier. And the upshot of that was glandulars. We allow the aliens to extract glandular secretions from animals, mixing them with their own. In exchange, we'll give them plutonium products for their drive, for their spaceship drives, along with making alien elements for them. and they give us the biological weapons. Isn't that a nice, horrible scenario? So this kind of stuff is bad news indeed. By the way, being a U.S. citizen in good standing, I can't stand it anymore. I think we can do better. And if our government officials will not keep, in other words, if they keep telling us the big lie, keep purporting the big lie, I think it's time we not only vote them out, we demand them out. We impeach them out. And if we can't do that, I advocate just what our founding fathers say. Federal government structured out of control is totalitarian slavery. And we must vigorously fight them out. And of course, the trouble is with revolutions, folks, they always end up killing the whole people. I don't advocate the overthrow of my government. But right now, my government is not in touch with me, you, or anybody else. And it's kind of mood after that.
What again was the number of estimated alien downed craft?
Pretty close to 800,000 all total. As we speak, the Russians are shooting down 2 a day per province within motherland Russia. Southern Hemisphere, 6 per day. United States, 1 per day. And Europe, 1 per day. It's a full-scale invasion. It's just because you don't see more of the White House. By the way, you wonder why don't they? Well, Billy Meyer sees them. First of all, of the 11 groups of aliens there are, 4 of which are benevolent, 7 of which are very evil.
Expound on the ones that are good for benevolent.
Well, the ones purported by Billy Meyer, the Pleiadians, from the 7-star cluster, the Pleiades. That's one of the groups. There's another group from the other side of Orion, another group from about 3,500 light years out, supposedly still with us. I don't remember their name offhand, but they're a very small individual, human-looking but childlike, but very large cranium, very large heads. IQs off scale, and they can do no wrong. They're the angelic types. They don't fly around with little wings or anything. By angelic, I mean that they can't do wrong. They just
Probably inspired Spielberg and
They weigh about 30 pounds.
E.T. movie. Probably inspired him.
About the fourth one.
Well, the fourth one is really 2 groups, and they're extremely tall individuals. They're predominantly ocean, deep ocean. They live in deep oceans, and they basically harvest our minerals, and then they're kind of, you can see they're always oceans are below 20,000 feet. They're these 2-tiered antennas found, and of course our submarines were found years and years ago, right during World War II. Some submarine warfare and encountered several at very shallow depth. They didn't know if it was a weapon or whatever they were.
Are the aliens our biggest threat, or is our federal government the biggest threat?
Both are our major threat and trust percent. It's bad enough we have one. Well, we have a little two.
Does Wolf County, Colorado have an underground base? Is that right?
Colorado has 3 underground bases, and one at DIA. I believe what you mentioned, what was it?
Weld County is the biggest, one of the biggest counties in the United States.
I believe it's in the northeastern section of that county, if I remember. I'd have to look at a map. I can identify every base on a map. I have the latitudes and longitudes of such bases. By the way, if I mention that does entail espionage. If I mention all of them, and I cannot do that. crowd, and I don't want to keep on talking as much as I can, so I'm not, that's one thing I promised to do, but I have to break my promise, and I'll tell you that it's wrong.
I encountered something when I was going back. We said we looked at friends up.
You'll have to speak.
I visited Minnesota. I was coming back when I signed to take a different route to lay off the interstates to the US Highway 36 across northern Kansas. At about 20 miles from the far other border, there was 70 constructions. 36 was completely cut off. And the detours went right around, and I did. I just went down in front of my 70. Over that area, about, I guess, 15 minutes later, I saw strange formation clouds in perfect crystals. And I was convinced it was simply very active. And
There's,
usually cut off the US highway.
the name of those clouds is all, if I can interrupt, is altocumulus lenticulatus, or lens-shaped clouds. And almost always predominantly, there are two kinds of clouds. The kind, if you go up to Virginia City sometime in April or May, you'll see these clouds that come right up, roaring up to a steep mountain. You'll look at them and they'll just disappear. They'll cease to go over your shoulder. It's nothing. It's kind of, that's altocumulus lenticulatus A. And the B kind, it almost looks as like a black thunderstorm-like cloud. And they always have metallic discs in the center. And if you take your camera, your eye won't probably see them. The camera will pick up metallic dots within that cloud structure, and those dots can be professionally analyzed, and you come up with the you come up with the conclusion of the Earth flying disc.
I've already ever seen those clouds more than 23 miles from mountains. If I had that much, it was at least 200 air miles, straight line distance from long speed, which is what the Earth would take down to that line.
I had spotted out in Portland, Oregon, took pictures, submitting it to a TV radio station, and teaching a radio station. It never got on the air. I wonder why. But they're rare clouds. If you ever have a chance to take a picture of them, you should.
What causes the clouds?
Well, the natural formation, of course, is also cumulus. They're extremely high cumulus cloud formation. Of course, cumulus is the building, big, kind of like a thunderhead or a thundercloud. It's air currents rushing up, and of course, the altocumulus lens-shaped or cookie-shaped clouds, you have air currents rushing up. Excuse me, air currents rushing up and air currents rushing down, and what they do is they compress the clouds, and then there's air circulation, generally in a clockwise or counterclockwise measure. I studied weather when I was in high school. That was one of our curriculums.
But you've got it right there. It's the main one source.
Well, yeah, I mean, the A-bomb is the A-bomb cloud is a lenticulatus.
We're downing one a day in this country. Wouldn't it seem logical that there would be more people that would be aware of debris?
No, I'll tell you why. As soon as one is down, they're attacking certain northern tier state Air Force bases, predominantly. If you can get on those bases or stray onto those Air Force bases without getting arrested, good luck. But if one of those craft is down, they seal off the whole area, period. They, being the federal government, police and whatnot, Air Force police or whatever, air base or army base or tank base or whatever you got in that area, they seal off the whole area, and anybody caught in there is shot on sight or immediately arrested and detained. By the way, a military base can circumvent the U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights. An Indian reservation can do the same thing. Is this what our government wants? This was supposed to have been laid out by our founding fathers? I don't believe so. I think we can do better. I know we can do better. I also know that our present government's stature is so punitive. It's very reminiscent of early Nazi days with Adolf Hitler. In fact, New World Order is taken from his manifesto. so to speak. In 1933, he actually said, "We will form a new world order."
Where was the third one in Colorado? You said one was DIA, second one was at northeastern part of Weld County.
One is down, I believe, you know where Telluride, Colorado is?
Yeah.
Okay, it's due east of Telluride by about 13 or 14 miles per hour. And you can't miss it because if you take some of the track roads, you'll see vented air shafts coming right out of the rock. That's typical of an underground base. Or if you're traveling along by car, by jet, you'll see a truncated mountain. Remember the truncated mountain? You saw as we were curving around going to Las Vegas, and the plane was banking like this. And I said, "Hey, Al, look at the deep underground military base." The cockpit door was open. It says, "Oh, God." And what they did is they did this and worked around. And just as you got your camera out,
Right.
I already had a picture of it. And that was, by the way, one of the bases at S4, because it had circled around Area 51, and that was one of the bases. So I actually saw it from the air. It's been, for about 30,000.
How deep are they?
They can run, the deepest deep underground military base is 2.5 miles underground. The Dulce Base is 2.5 miles underground. That's pretty close to 13,000 feet. 5,280 feet make a mile. You don't have any temperature and height temperature problems. No, as a matter of fact, in certain sand zones, you have lower temperature than grounds are near water. Water leaches out. Of course, that has to be sealed. Protective sealant. Very difficult in some cases. By the way, this ring I'm wearing has a sapphire. When you blow mountains apart, there's sapphires in the mountains. I had that professionally cut. Where it was a good luck piece. It's a blonde 6-ray star sapphire, American star sapphire.
It's been working.
Yes.
You might have.
I had it cut and polished and the setting made all the biggest. Some of my different days. Yeah.
Oh, what about when you're just driving along and it seems to be nothing around, and you'll see these white pipes coming out of the ground with turbines on the top?
Exactly. That's
That one?
That's one type.
There's one of those
It's an
in
air ship.
Denver. I mean, I've seen them along the highways in Denver. It's like industrial and commercial stuff over here, and then all of a sudden you see all these white tubings along the highway.
Yeah.
People along.
Those are air shafts. Some of them are run very deep. Some of them are run only 400 or 500 feet underground.
You don't have to be in the military tacticians. You have very vulnerable to plug those things up, pump some bad gas down there while I'm
Well, I guess I'm not a tactician and such, but
Yeah.
that's gonna move. Yeah, that's one way of telling. Yes, sir.
Are there any of those underground bases in Nebraska or Kansas?
In every state, there's at least 2.
You know where they are in Nebraska?
I'd have to look on a map. I couldn't tell you.
On the office,
Big part?
on the office, Air Force Base.
Yeah, probably all of it. Must be a good to me. That's also where they took some of the alien remains and saucer remains right off the bat. It's all for Air Force. Okay, any more questions? One more question.
Do they have a underground base at by Snow there or
Yes, sir. Yes, they do, and it's a very deep base indeed. In fact, they're going to make it deeper than any other base. They want to take it 4 miles down.
What's it called again?
Sedona, Arizona.
is that one that's just
A lot of the big part.
just northeast of there?
Yes. just northwest. Well, that's all, folks. And I think I better leave some time for Al Bailey. And I better munch a sandwich before I become an alien. Anyway, thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
hope you guys enjoyed that. One thing I want to point out that's probably the most disturbing in this entire incident is the fact that Phil was found dead in his apartment. And it wasn't just that he was found dead. It was that he was found dead with his catheter strangling him. You guys can look this up for yourselves. And incidentally, before that even occurred, Phil, while giving a lecture, also showed the audience that he had been shot weeks prior. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Or maybe what he showed in this video is probably the most concrete evidence we've ever seen of real metamaterials.